catch up.
Hi, everyone. Welcome into Primetime and Women Unscripted. We always start this show, it seems, with laughter, which is great, right? We haven't seen one another in a good little while. Maura,
like
it's
forever.
been
Doesn't
way
it feel
back
like
the beginning of the year.
She said she felt like it had been a year since she'd been here.
I said two.
I feel like
It feels like
I feel like it's
forever.
been a year in this year, and it's only
Yes.
8 months.
That's right. That's right. I mean, we're already going into... Anyway, welcome in, everyone. And we want to ask you how you are doing these days. We're doing just fine here at the studio at We Beam TV. And, of course, I'm Barbara Marville Kelly, back once again with our actually, our show for Women Unscripted is the last Monday of every month. We usually have about 4 or 5, but we have 3 today, and that's okay. We had some last-minute changes, you know, like life happens, that type of thing. But I just want to introduce to you one of my besties. I don't know whether I should call you Tinkerbella or Helena Trangata, because they both work. And you've been doing these shows with me right from day one?
Yes,
just like
yes.
Maura.
Maura and
Maura
Cher and I, we
for
started with you. Yeah.
Also known as Maura Sweeney.
Also known as more. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh my! I need a nickname. I haven't been able to figure one out.
Well, we just found one,
Oh, which one?
but it doesn't appeal to everybody. But it's Glamour.
Okay.
And I said, that's so you,
But I'm
Barbara.
not your glamour. and
No,
I'm
you're
your
not mine.
glamour.
It's not a universal name,
not your
but it's a great
glamour.
one for you.
Well, you use marvelous a lot.
I do what?
Marvelous.
Marvelous.
Oh, yes, that's-
Barbara Marvelous. That's a good one.
Marvelous. That's my last name.
I know it is.
That was not my idea. That was HSN. I
You
did
remind me of
Marvelous.
Barbara
It
Marvelous.
reminds me of Barbara
I love the way you said Oh, God.
But if Barbara
Sherry
Marvelous.
Casola, where are you? You're missing out in all the fun, really. We'll do this.
We'll just
do
call you
this
Marv
again.
for short.
Yeah, Barb.
I like it, Barbara Marvelous. And you are.
That's
Always
Aw.
brighten the
I
day.
always forget about that, but I do remember to say have a marvelous day. But
There
anyway,
you go.
I have to say, if you saw our posting on Facebook, you will have seen that I was going to be talking about our favorite thing, that first thing that came to my heart when the girls said, well, what are we going to talk about today? Because we are unscripted. We don't ever script these shows out because we want to come from the heart, although Cher does like to have her notes. Her little
And somebody else
Much to
says,
the dismay of some of us who like some structure, right?
But we have so much fun anyway. So I thought the first thing that comes to mind and heart is love. Something I think if we turned on the news today, we would see more of. Who sang that song?
You think that we should see more of? It would be nice, but you don't see that.
I do see that. And
On
I
TV. You
think
see
that.
love on TV.
No. I see it with my eyes and my heart.
Okay.
Because what you think about, you bring about.
Okay.
And guess what? If we didn't have this platform to let everybody know what the big problem is out there, they might not think about it. Or maybe they have, and we're reinforcing it, right? The other thing is faith over fear. I did not make that up. It's on T-shirts. I have one ordered and all that because it's very true. And, of course, someone we
camera.
all know and love has her faith over fear here. Faith over fear necklace. I love that. I'm going to order that today from Origami Owl.
Faith over fear. I love
it.
that.
There's a lot of truth to that.
Yes, because, any time that I feel fear, it comes back to me. Where's your faith?
That's right.
Let's put it over that fear.
That's right.
And so when I do that, then it dispels the fear.
Do you know when we were getting certified through Compass Coaching,
You mean when you drug me into that?
similarly to how you drug me into Origami Owl, and I'm still there, we do that. Because that's what besties do. Now you made me forget what I was going to say. About the fear thing.
Yes.
That's where I kind of thought about false evidence appearing real. And I don't really know where that generated, but there's a lot of truth to that. If we allow
Isn't that from the
fear...
Bible?
No, it's not.
It's not?
No, someone was very wise in breaking down that word, F-E-A-R,
It's really
and coming
big
up
in
with it.
12-step program. That's where I first heard
But
it.
it's a
was in
great
12-step
way for
recovery
people
programs.
to break down the word fear when they're overcome by it. But go ahead, continue
Well,
your.
fear can put us in our own emotional prison. And once you go there, it's really hard to break out unless we have the skill sets. In fact, the funny thing is, we were talking just before the show, not that we all know everything, but we know a lot about a lot because we're still here, we're still happy, we're healthy, and we're not letting all this stuff in. We're not saying that there was something going on out there, but if we all really go to our hearts and think, how does a whole country, not just a state or a city, a whole country and a whole world shuts down in a matter of, I can't even, I don't want to remember. Was it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days?
It was progressive. It was almost like a wave that just continued and increased.
Snowball. Yes.
Yeah, it did.
There was a snowball effect of.
And when it went,
Oh my gosh!
I mean,
when you got in that snowball, there was no getting out for. And even when it thawed, it's hopefully thawing now as we speak.
It was
but
crazy
so to your
stuff.
point, you were saying, how did we get there? And relate it back to fear. What?
Yes. And
Because I'm afraid of you, you may give me something.
Right. Exactly.
That horrible virus.
Well, and that's true, and a lot of people felt that.
And
to
we feel it.
to the point where when they're out in the public and actually showing that fear through their actions that really are kind of, could be better.
Well, even
put it
when
that
I'm
way.
out, and I don't feel like it's a fearful thing, but because you can't smile at anyone because they can't see you smile.
Yes, they can. They can see your twinkling eyes.
I don't think people are even looking. I think everybody
No,
has
they're
gotten
not.
a little
They're
bit
not.
tunnel vision.
You're right.
I, too, it's like, how fast can I get in and out of the store and get what I need and not go down the wrong aisle because there's arrows on the floor that I can't fathom where they are because they move them every time I'm going to the store.
I know. It's like
And
trying to keep track.
it's like, it's going grocery shopping has become such a chore because of the fact that, even the staff people there, they used to, and they still do, but when you speak back to them, it's like they don't want to really hear you. I mean,
Well, you can't,
they don't
for one
hear
thing,
you.
because I'm talking like this, and right?
That's right.
So there's just a whole lot of stuff, and that adds to our stress level. It adds to it. It adds to it day in, day out, the evening. And if you watch the news, forget about it, as Joe would say. Forget about it, because it's insanity. So we need to create our own sane world, right, Maura? You brought
Yes.
up from a little kid, you were learning your skill sets on how to deal with what we've had to deal with, right?
Yes. I'd love to go back a little bit and just revisit this COVID thing, since that's where you started, and then we'll go beyond it.
Yeah, because we're going to share with everybody
Yeah,
what
because
we're
I don't.
doing.
Right. Okay. When you were talking about, like, how did we get here? And I was thinking, right, it's not just the United States. This is a lockdown around the world. There are only a few countries, I think, where they did not implement the same stringent requirements. But just as recently as a week ago, I learned that a large swath of Australia decided they were going to lock down for yet another year. Amazing. So sometimes we only think it's happening to us here, just like you were saying, my neighborhood, my community, my state, my country. This is a worldwide thing. But I need to share a few interesting things about fear, false evidence appearing real. And how did we get to where we got? Because people went piece by piece and step by step into unbelievable fear. And I believe when this is all over, we're going to see so many books written about what happened to the world, what happened to their minds, what happened to their emotions, what happened to their judgment, their decision making, their ability to think on their own. The last trip I took overseas was just prior to the lockdown with COVID. I was speaking at a conference in London, England, and it was a weekend event. And after the conference, they had this big gala. There's a beautiful young woman that was there, and dressed in her gold lame gown, and someone introduced me to her. She's just beautiful. And they said, do you know that she works for the government, and they're investigating this current virus that we're all hearing about? Just think, this was only a few weeks before everything went
The
down.
government in London?
Yes. So she was working for the government in England as they were looking at this virus and determining where they were going with it. What was it about? Should we be concerned? Now, I want you to know what I surmised from it. So again, she's beautiful. She's wearing a sleeveless gown, and she's out socially. But she is among those special scientists investigating this unknown virus at the time. And of course, me, I'm always interviewing everybody. I said, really? Can you tell me what you're discovering in your lab? Now, this is what she smiled at me. And she said to me, I'm sorry, but we're not allowed to speak about it. Now, you know what I noticed? She couldn't say anything because apparently they had non-disclosure going on. But she's out socially, she's smiling, and there was no change in her demeanor. She wouldn't have been out if she thought she was dealing with the world plague. That was the first thing, okay? But it was only within a few weeks we were all told we have to, stay indoors or whatever. I remember the things at the grocery stores you're talking about. My husband likes doing grocery shopping, so I wouldn't go as often. But every once in a while I would go. I didn't have the mask on. And the next thing I knew, people were wearing masks looking at me as if I were their enemy.
Absolutely.
And then I started getting I'm an essential worker right now working for the supervisor of elections office because other people left and they were afraid and they asked if I would come in. So every day I wear a mask. And first, I only had to wear it sometimes until I got into the main office, and then we clamped down even further. And I mentioned when we came in, there was a girl so fearful. She said, oh my gosh, Maura, I hope you don't mind. She said, I'm hyperventilating underneath my mask. She said, I am so afraid. And now this is what you asked about, Barbara. And I said, you know what? I won't use her name. I said, I understand you feel afraid because everywhere you look, the fear on TV news, it's everywhere on social media. They would have you think that if you got anywhere close to anybody, you were going to be consumed by this. And I said, I said, you are just fine. I said, you will be fine. But I found that I lived through a lot of very trying circumstances as a child. Sometimes I was absolutely petrified. Many times I was. But I had to learn how to manage my emotions and look beyond my fears into what do I know is real and what's not real. And how can I test the barriers and the boundaries to find out more about what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
But we've all been under that.
Yes.
But I feel like I'm almost watching the rest of the world live through what I lived through as a young person.
I know. I
So
know.
it's like, welcome to the world I used to know.
Isn't that? I tell you, and you feel the same way. We were all three agreeing to that because if you've watched our shows over the last almost 7 years, and you hear my husband and I talking about HeartMath Institute, which by the way, they are all safe at HeartMath. You know, those fires going on. I just wanted to say that. Gabby got a hold of me, and Howard, and everybody's fine. But my husband was certified there back in 1999, and I learned so many skill sets through him and the foundation of science behind what happens when we don't learn how to manage our emotions. And the frequency level in our body is what creates, I would say, a playing ground for the wrong thoughts and the wrong decisions. And in fact, we became licensed twice this year in just the last few months with HeartMath to teach the Heart Smarts and then the HeartMath Experience, which right now HeartMath has offered complimentary to anybody that wants to take that. And it's almost like an outline of what my husband paid close to $10,000 to go twice to be certified. But these are all bullet points. They're on our websites, barbaramarvel.com and dennis-kelly.com. But the science behind this, I picked up not by default, but because my husband, we got married and we're an item and we're living together, and we're coaching people and teaching people these skill sets, and they're not that hard. I mean, we even sold the
Why
program.
don't you, Barbara, I know I'm pausing you right now, give one skill set that people could listen to today that are thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid, I'm out of control. What would be one small
It's the
skill?
simplest thing, and we've done that on our shows. And that's really going to your heart before you make a decision. Because when you go to the heart and you think of love, it doesn't matter who, what, when, or where. It might have been an experience in your life. It might be a person that's still on the planet or someone that has left the planet. And just close your eyes, do a little soft breathing. Just for about a minute. That's all you need. Do you know that the science is behind it? They've done all the studies. What will happen is your frequency level will raise. When your frequency level is raised up, you can, and you're in that love emotion, you cannot have two opposing emotions such as love and fear at the same time. It just doesn't happen. But when you have that feeling of love and your frequency level is higher, you don't go down into that false evidence appearing real because you can't. You cannot do that. And that's I mean, that's how we live our life. All right, 2 minutes, don't go past 2 minutes, right?
It was good, though. That's very good and so true, because I think we've all we practiced that. I think that that's something we do. We talked earlier that it's habitual for us, right?
Yes, we said that all before. We had a show even before the show started.
I know, we
and
did.
Now we're talking.
Right, now we'll let everybody else know what we're
sharing
talking about.
But so I think that was great, and I don't want, but I do want to digress just a little bit from that, because when I was listening earlier, I got to thinking, we all achieved getting past our fears in different ways, and possibly it's our age, and I'm thinking, is this a generational thing? Is fear more acceptable today than it was when we were kids? And
Repeat that question again. Is fear more acceptable today?
Yes.
I don't think
and
it's ever acceptable.
No, I think it is. And this is what I'm thinking. And, obviously, this is not scientific, it's just what I'm thinking. So I
It's
had
observational.
A fear.
What?
I had a fear. We had these big, I think they were called cedar trees outside of our kitchen window. And I was a little bitty, and my dad would say, go in the kitchen and get something. And there was no lights in the kitchen at night.
No, they look like
And
monsters.
these trees would be blowing in the wind like
dear.
monsters, and I would be like, I don't want to get in the kitchen. And my dad would say, go in the kitchen and get something. He was not going to take no for an answer. He was forcing me to go in the kitchen.
Oh, but he didn't know that you were fearful.
I don't
Or
know
maybe
if
he
he
was
knew it or not,
forcing
but
you to face your fears.
That's right. That's right, yeah.
He probably knew, but I didn't know that he knew. I'll put it that way. And so I kept going into the kitchen and kept finding out that there was no monster going to come in and get me or whatever. And I learned that was a good lesson for me to learn at that point, because I did realize if I faced my fears that there often was nothing there to be afraid of.
That is excellent, and I can relate to that as a kid, and I bet maybe you guys could too, but I took this even into my first marriage. I was afraid to go out and come home unless I looked under the beds and in all the closets before
goodness.
I could settle down, because I had a big 2-story house up in Michigan. And did you ever do that? But I did that even as a kid too.
Oh, I did that always as a child.
What?
Under the beds and in the closets.
Yes, and I wouldn't lay on the bed with my arm out. I still do that. Because anyway, maybe I still have a few fears to face.
But I think, so fast forward to, I look at my, to my nieces and nephews, okay, and my grandchildren, and I'm thinking that I hear them not encourage their children to walk through the fear, not to look at it as my father would not have ever accepted me saying, I'm scared. He would have, the same thing happened when I started swimming, jump in the water. I'm scared, Dad, I don't know how to swim. You will swim, you'll sink, or I'll save you. I'll jump in and get you. And so that's how I learned how to swim.
Oh my gosh, you just brought up another fear. Thanks a
So
lot.
what I'm saying is now, when I hear, because I just was lucky enough to have my nieces and nephews here, and I would hear them say, oh, I don't want to do that, I'm scared. There's no resistance from the parents. They allow them to set in that fear. In this case, I'm not talking about big fears. I'm talking about little, like, I'm scared of the dog. And they don't encourage them to sit down and know that the dog's not going to hurt them.
They're not communicating. They're not engaging the fear with what's happening at the moment to try to encourage them. And I had that fear of dogs, and I faced that fear with a German Shepherd that bit me on my hiney.
And I had one
And I
that
was
bit
only-
me on my stomach. Yeah.
So, and we were out one time with my my husband's daughter, and there was this puppy German Shepherd there, and I just thought, I'm going to face my fear. And I went over and I made friends with that German Shepherd. I did.
Okay,
I did.
now that
And this
says
was just a
something
year
about-
ago. This was a year.
Wow.
The fear for me is the choice. It's a choice. Okay, well, like what you said, what's real and what's not. And I remember when we were in Canada, we had businesses over there with some anti-aging doctors, and I mean, the mountains in Canada were mammoth. And I literally took a magazine and shrunk right
So you didn't have to look at them? What?
I swear
As
to
you're
God.
traveling around.
And going over the Skyway. Now, I don't know where that comes from, okay? But if there's water involved, when I was a kid, I was forced to jump into 10-foot water, and I was maybe only, 3 foot tall. And I thought I was never going to come back up. And you know, to this day, water isn't my favorite thing, and I love the beaches. But anyway, but there's so many fears that we've had as
Yes.
children, but now as an adult, there can be real fears just because of what is out there on the news media.
Yes.
And some of us don't have those skill sets.
Yes.
So I think it's fear. A lot of what I felt in this last few months has been fear of the unknown.
That's it.
Yes,
Fear of the unknown.
precisely.
It's not like fear of
Yeah.
jumping in that water. It's
Yeah.
not fear of those monsters that I thought the trees were. It's the fear of, I don't know what it's going to be when I walk out the door. I don't
Exactly.
know. You know, you
Exactly.
hear rioting, you hear about rioting,
Yes.
you hear about
Yes.
this, you hear about the
Yes.
COVID, you hear about all of these things, and you think, what am I going to face? What am I going to bring home to my husband who's a little bit more vulnerable than I am? I think that has been the biggest thing for me. But I still feel that my faith can overcome that.
That's
Yes.
I
And
agree
so
100%.
my belief, you know, I'm just it's like in a nutshell, my belief is I'm going to die sometime, and you know, it's God knows when that time is. And you know what? I don't really care what it's from, whether it's from COVID or whether it's I get hit by a bus or whatever. When it's my time, it's going to be my time. So I'm going to live my life.
Thank you.
My mom died at the age I am right now. And she died in this month. It just so happens in September. And I decided I am not going to give up the end of my life for a
A thought.
False evidence
false-
appearing real for you.
Absolutely. Because what if I die and I, you know, my last thought on my deathbed is, oh, well, I had to stay in for the last year of my life because of this virus. I would be pissed off.
You know, you ladies are giving me everything that's coming out of your mouth is causing me to think about something. Can I make a comment first about what you said? Is this a generational thing where we are not allowing our children, or let's say this next generation, to experience fear and face fear? Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but I was thinking about this quote just yesterday. During World War II, we heard, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. Now that was FDR. That was not
yeah.
that was not Churchill.
Yeah, that was.
There were young children over in Europe, and there were people here that had their fathers went away, their brothers went away, and there were young children in Europe. They were in the middle sometimes of the bombing. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. That was the message that was coming into an entire people group. Now today, I remember hearing the first time someone mentioned a microaggression. A microaggression. How many people have been aggressive toward you in the course of your lifetime that don't like you, that tell you to get out of their way, that tell you off? And now we need to be ultra particular about someone else's microaggression. So therefore, everything bothers us, everything makes us afraid. And I'm going to say there is some truth to that, Helena, that we now have this society that we've got to protect ourselves from everything, including these unknown concepts.
We're
Yeah.
The
The unknown
seems as
is
though we protect our children. We're overprotective of our children. And when I'm saying children, I'm not just talking about little bitty tots. I'm talking about, you know, as they grow up, how are they going to face their fears if they've never been taught to? It's not something that you just, I don't know. I mean, I still had some fear when I was, I remember when I was 30, you talk about going into places, but we're talking about your house. I was newly divorced, and I had a really hard time going into a restaurant by myself. Even though I knew there would be friends in there that I would meet, I had a hard time walking from the car and opening that door and going in by myself. If I was with a girlfriend, it wouldn't have been a problem. But by myself, that was hard. But I made myself do it because I was taught from a little bitty person that was scared of those trees. You walk through your fear. You walk through the fear because it is false evidence appearing real. Once I got in the restaurant, I was fine. You wouldn't think that that's a big deal for a 30-year-old woman who had 2 children and had, you know, pretty much life experiences, but I do remember that. But there are children, I mean, I hear stories, of course, in my coaching, etc., who now cannot go into a store and order anything because they don't know how to communicate with they're not using their words. They've not been taught to use their words because they text. And a friend of mine said that her grandson cannot go in and order guitar equipment. He cannot go in the store and order guitar equipment. He can order it
Is it
online,
fear?
but he can't go in and tell them what guitar equipment he wants because he's incapable of having that conversation. That's a fear point for him. And the same family, the granddaughter can text an order for food, but she won't go into a restaurant and order food. She won't walk in and order food.
Interesting.
It is, and it's true. There are fears. A lot of people, like, we're quite open, you could tell. We'll gladly share. I can't even tell you the fears I grew up with. Outrageous. And yet, I would have to constantly push. One of the reasons why was because I had my own life to live. And secondly, I had a daughter I was raising. And I thought, I don't want to let her look at fear incarnate so that she acquires my fears and then
right.
adds to
That's
those her
right.
own.
That's right.
But so I am so aware of other people's fears, even when it came to things like the mask. I will honor them in their own fear.
Sure.
But what's so interesting is that we've been in this arena right now, and it could come to what's going on in the world out there. We watch the news. Everything about the news is designed to separate people and create fear. And Barbara, what you said about this heart meth, when I said give people out here one example, and you said, before you react, before you respond, whenever you're fearful, go into your heart. Mm-hmm. And as soon as and then start to breathe, and you said that your fear cannot coexist with your faith and your love. As soon as you said that, I was reminded of, like, so many times when I had a corporate career. We all have previous lives, we got our current
you
lives.
mean like a J-O-B?
Yeah. But I was in corporate world, and I was a manager. And I remember sometimes I'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm going to handle this. And I would have people with issues, but you know what I would do? I'd go behind my door. Now we're talking 30 years ago when I started this. And I would say a prayer, or I'd remember a word that was a word of encouragement. Or I would, exactly. And you know what? I would lift myself up out of an emotional place I was in, and I wouldn't speak until I was in a different place. And then the words that came out of my mouth, the wisdom that would come forth, the delivery was so much different. I was literally, you'll like this with what is it, heart meth, or what is it called again?
Heart meth.
Heart meth, okay. The change in me as the manager in the way I dealt with things, because I wouldn't respond to fear and I would always look to respond better, it would literally create a path for new solutions, ways for people to deal with their conflicts with one another. It just set a brand new tone. So as soon as you said that, I didn't have the benefit of the $10,000 program. I just had to learn it on the job wherever I was in life to say, wait a minute, this is not a good situation. How do I change my state of mind, my emotions, my focus?
Right.
And so you're saying
And that was a
science
choice.
proves it. I'm telling you my experience.
But that was your choice.
over and over again, because I know fear doesn't work so well.
Act as if you've got it. You know, you've got this. And I've changed that. I have a friend who uses that all the time. You've got this, but it's not me that's got it. It's God's got this.
I like to say, I got this.
I got this. That's so cute. But that's
that's
true,
cute.
because
I
it's
got
faith
t-shirts
and it's
coming.
trust.
I got this.
That's so cute.
But it's true.
It is true, and it
because
is an
God's got
ongoing.
this. I don't even know. I mean, we're not even supposed to worry about it.
That's right.
The fact that we're even worrying says that we're in fear.
You're
And
right.
so to let go of that, even when Barb was talking about going inside, and I didn't feel any fear, but I felt lighter just listening to her.
Me too, because you know the
Didn't
spot. You know you've already been there.
You and I were smiling at each other because we've been there and we've done that. You know what I'm saying? But
It
I
works.
felt lighter just right here, right now.
Yes.
And it's amazing how your faith can pull you up to whatever you're called upon for.
Well, and another thing is words are very, 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 very powerful. And the word worry shouldn't really be in any, at least this is how my husband and I feel, is worry is a very strong word, and once we say it, we're giving it birth.
Yes.
So we talk about, we slip, I'm worried about this or whatever, but not like many years ago. And we use concern. Am I worried? No. Because it's such a negative emotion. Yes. I'm going to recommend a book for you and you guys, if you're interested in it. I think it's still in print. This is something that really changed my life many, many years ago, and when I was going through one of my first of many transformations. It's What You Say When You Talk to Yourself by Chad Helmstetter. It's a little... Chad, did I say Chad? Shad?
It sounded
Shad?
like you said Chad. It is
Anyway,
Chad.
so I have this little book that is so yellow on the pages. It's that old. I have that with my Norman Vincent Peale. And then the other book I recommend is Choices by Helmstetter as well. In fact, he has a coaching program out there now.
Yes, he does, yeah.
And it's amazing. But I'll tell you, between that and Norman Vincent Peale and just the wonderful, I need to be able to relate to what I believe in. And even when it comes to the Bible and the whole story about Jesus, put it to me without the these and thous. I'm just being honest, and I can understand it better and then deliver that message and to people that may need it. And there's so many of us, all of us, no matter what kind of skill sets that we have chosen to look into and put into our lifestyles and share with others, whether it's a coaching client or a group of coaching, a Tai Chi class or anything like that. We're always learning. We don't know everything about everything, but we might have a few steps that we might be able to share with you guys when you tune into Women Unscripted, because we are really unscripted today, and it should be. That's simply girlfriends getting together and sharing how has this affected us. And I really think that it hasn't affected us like it could have. I don't even want to say should have, but how it could have.
Right.
Now, did we like being locked down? Well, I guess my husband and I lock ourselves down pretty much anyway because we love being home. We're just homebodies with our doggies and our kids and family.
I think we've done extremely well with
Yes,
it.
I do.
I think many people have done very well with this.
very
This is what I'm
grateful.
learning.
I'm very grateful for that, the fact that we've done extremely. I'm very grateful that I have Joe.
Yes.
I think it would be much more difficult to go through this without a significant other in the house, whatever that looks like for you. But I am amazed that how easy it has been. I mean, it certainly has challenges, but it hasn't blown me away. I'll put it that way. It hasn't blown me away like I see and hear some people saying, you know, if I don't get out of here, I'm going to, you know, cut a hole in the wall or something. But I kind of pace myself too, you know, like I do pickup for groceries. I do some pickups, and I used to always be on the phone talking about business everywhere I went, and now I just play music, and I'll take the long way home and go through the the park or whatever. And so that's what I did early on when I wasn't getting out very much, and now that I'm getting out a little bit more, I just try to pace myself where I'm not home every day, and I do get a little bit rammy.
You know, when we first started out with that, because it was so new to us, and I hate to be blabbing on about all this, but I'm hoping that you are picking up something from our show today, but please don't stop me from going shopping. It's just not a good thing. It's just really not.
I said to Joe, you know how you've always wanted me to stop shopping so much? I said, you've never succeeded with stopping my shopping, but I said COVID may well do that, because the mask thing and shopping, it's just there's times I just want to like get out of the store fast because I gotta get that mask off.
I know.
Well, yeah, you know what I find the worst? It's not the shop. Well, I've never been much of a shopper. It's imagine saying, you know, I'd like to go out to eat. Now, here in Florida, we've had more liberties, let's say, than certain other states that were affected more heavily. But could you imagine getting together with your mate, your friends, whatever, you're all dressed up because you want to go out on a Friday evening to eat. And the next thing you notice is that somebody's greeting you with the mask, and you're wearing a mask. Somehow that just totally undoes the whole thing for me.
It does.
It really does.
You can't.
You have to get masks that match your outfit.
Which I refuse to do.
Oh,
All
I
right,
got the
now,
latest one with Boss and Bling.
wait a minute.
Anyway, you got to have some fun with it, right?
Yours is satin.
Wait a minute. Let me tell you this. I told you I'm working now at the supervisor of elections office as the, what do we call it, the essential worker. I have had 3 different masks. The first ones I got at Target. And you know what it said on the front of the mask? This does not protect you from anything. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Smart people know this. So today, none of them were comfortable. And by the way, I'm on the phone, on the computer. I'm like this, you know, whenever I'm at the office. But wait, when I'm on the phone, holding it, this is what I have to do. Do you know what I'm talking
You have
about?
to
You
fold
hold
it
it
out.
open so that they could actually hear what you're saying on the phone.
It gets
Okay.
right in your mouth or up in your nose.
So I have to hold it open. But then it's pulling on my ears. So I have a neighbor who works at Nordstrom's. And she was very busy at Nordstrom's. So I told her this dilemma I was in. She said, Maura, there's this really high-end mask I could get for you. I said, I have such a trouble. I said, I'll do it because I have to, but I don't like it. And then you talk about all these designer masks. I've got people that I've seen wear masks that match their shoes, their handbags. But anyway, she said, Maura, there's one. It's super comfortable. You could wash it. You could breathe in it, everything. I said, so Nordstrom's, what does it cost? She said, $39.
Are you
Yeah, wait a minute. But she said I got a 30% employee discount. So I just got it. She put it in my mailbox last night. This is almost $30 with the discount. Now I want you to know. So at least it'll be a little more comfortable at work. But guess what it says right on the label?
Made in China.
No, well, that's one thing. I don't know if it says it, but it says it doesn't protect you from anything. So I just spent $30, but at least I'll be more comfortable. So, and then this is probably a good thing. We talked about false evidence appearing real. You probably know this of me. I am a researcher. I go right to the source of everything.
Yep.
I'm constantly finding out what's going on, and I never think I know anything, which always keeps me open. Well, for those people who have been so upset about all these news reports that are getting people so concerned, like the woman who works beside me who was hyperventilating inside of her mask, this past week, the CDC, I don't want to say they revised their numbers, but they clarified their numbers here in the United States. And this is what they found. And anyone who wants to go to the CDC website can see this. What's happened is that what was the final count we were up to right now with the deaths due to COVID?
I don't know. I don't
Was
pay
it
attention
all
to
right.
it anymore.
But there are people every day that will post it. It was
Yeah.
like well over 100,000. Well, when the CDC last week clarified the numbers, this is what they clarified. The actual number of people here in the United States that died of COVID alone, meaning there was nothing else involved, we're 9,200 people up to date right now. Of that number, the vast majority were very advanced in age. Now, beyond that, all those other numbers we saw lumped in, they had at least 2 to 3 comorbidity elements. Now, I want you to think false evidence appearing real. We saw updates every single day, by the hour, by the moment, right? Everybody's going to die of COVID. And by the way, again, I understand fear and nobody wants to do anything foolish. But imagine if we had these numbers at the beginning that the CDC is now bringing out, and we realized, okay, if you are a person with a heart condition, if you have diabetes, if you have a severe overweight condition, and if you happen to catch COVID, then you're going to have a higher sense of danger here. But if you don't, then really this is like getting a very severe cold, a flu like we get every other year. It would have
right.
put so much more back into place. But the official figures right now from CDC here in the United States, with all this fear shutting down the country, 9,200 people died of COVID alone. And a lot of them, the vast majority, were of advanced age.
And compared to what numbers?
I want to say they said we had like 125. Somebody would know. I'm sure somebody watching today.
Yeah.
125,000.
Well, look what
and
that
counting.
fear did. Look what that fear did. It's put people out of
business.
It's put children and families at risk.
Yes.
Because there's many mental health issues that have affected those issues, those children and those spouses. Whether
You're
I mean, we don't know those numbers, but we've almost all seen one of our favorite stores or one of our favorite restaurants or someone we know in business is no longer able to stay in business because
That's
of
right.
this.
Right.
Because financially they just couldn't
You're right.
hack it. And so it's the consequences of it so far, I think, is probably more devastating than some of our wars that we've had. So instead of having another war, we've allowed this virus to devastate us.
Without all the evidence that we
Right.
needed to make
Right.
decisions that weren't just based on worry and shock and fear.
Well, speaking of those decisions, my husband and I are both in that age group. But the one thing that I had confidence in, and and I may have had it back in November because I was really sick.
I've had other friends that got it too.
For 3 weeks. But my husband is at that age, and he ended up in the hospital after that crazy fall on an uneven sidewalk, and he was there overnight. He wasn't on a COVID floor or anything like that. But we've always taken some kind of supplements to build the immune system. So we're not comparing apples with apples all the time, or oranges
Good
with
point,
oranges,
Barbara.
because not everyone does that. And I'm not being judgmental. This is just what we've done because we are seniors.
Right.
And now we're seniors, but we did this before we were seniors and before that, because
Right.
it's just that mindset and that belief system that if we want to live a quality of life, we need to add. Our soil doesn't have what it needs. The minerals are gone. There's a very small percentage of all the vitamins, everything that we do need. So I just wonder, I'm really overthinking this. Not that I ever do that, but
you're mindful of
do you
your
know what I'm
lifestyle
saying?
and the
If
decisions
you're
you make.
talking
And
numbers. What if they took the stats for people? Okay, take people who take care of themselves, and don't judge that into the elderly.
I absolutely agree with you.
It just so I felt I didn't fall into the fear thing. I was obedient, and I thought,
Well,
okay,
you want to be wise. You don't want to be unwise.
that's
right.
right. So
Well, in some
I
cases, it was illegal not to be obedient.
I would
mean,
suit
you know
up.
what I'm saying?
I would suit up, and I would not spray myself with hand sanitizer or body sanitizer. I used our thieves. And I would spray myself down from Young Living, and that's how I would do it. But I found myself really laughing at myself. Okay?
You were always laughing at yourself, Barbara.
So I run in and out. She calls me, where are you? She knows where I'm at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, right? So I go out, I make my rounds, and then I go home. This is I was so exhausted, and I don't mind shopping, but I was so exhausted with the this and the that, and the sanitizer, you got to wipe the carts, and then I come home, and then they're talking about wipe off your groceries, and I got to
Strip down,
got
take a shower.
That's exactly. And I'd call Kelly. I'd say, okay, meet me at the door with the groceries. You go in the car and get the groceries. I'm going to strip down right at the front door and into the shower after I put my clothes into the hot water to wash. And I'm going, what the? This is insanity. I'm not doing this anymore. Now, am I being careful? Yes. I'm not making fun of any of this stuff. I am making fun of myself because I was exhausted by 11 o'clock in the morning, okay? And I have energy, and my energy goes until at least 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Do you know what I'm saying?
I hear you, yes. And you know what? You realize, I'm sure anybody who's got any friends or knows of anybody, everybody dealt with this differently. Now, there was one woman I knew who, she does hair. And she was saying she has a really good friend. And she said this friend did not want her to touch her hair, didn't want her to be anywhere near her. So she said she would bring products to her friend's house. Maybe it was hair coloring or something. She said she would leave it there, and the friend would leave it outside for 7 days before she felt it was safe enough to bring it into her house. Now, I have another friend from my high school days who's living out in California, and I'd gotten in touch with her publicly on Facebook and also privately. She was so emotionally affected by the fear that she stayed at home all this time. There were a lot of people, they were ordering their food, and it was all being dropped off, so they didn't really have to have any connection physically with anyone else. But the first day that she actually went out, she had the gloves on, the mask on. I don't know what she had done with the rest of her being, but she had gone out in her car, and she said, am I alone? I am so afraid. And this was a tough girl going through high school. I mean, nothing made her afraid, but she was indoors so long trying to do, I guess, the right thing that emotionally she became traumatized by it. Mm-hmm. And she said, I am so fearful to get out of my car. She said, I can't wait. She said, if I'm going to run in, and she said, I can't wait to get back to the security of my car and then my house again. And I think this is going to play into what are some of the later circumstances we're all going to be dealing with.
I think the whole nation's going to have PTSD.
Well, wait a minute. I've heard several people already report on this.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, but that's why I said we're going to see so many books written about this. What do I wish? I wish all of us so well. I wish us all to have good lives.
Of course.
But I also look at what's happened throughout our world, and I'm thinking, going back to what you said, are we now at a point where we can't take any bad news? We're going to panic over everything rather than saying, wait a minute, let's just calm down. Let's see what we're looking at. Let's hear from everyone. Let's put it all together instead of getting into the place of worry. And then you know what worry brings? When we're afraid, we attack others. We take our own fears, we throw it on others, and we're literally...
Haven't you heard those stories? My sister said there was someone going into Publix in front of her, and the person, this was before masks were required, and the woman didn't have a mask on. Now, we don't know that she didn't have a mask. She just didn't have it on as she was going into Publix. Some woman came through the parking lot screaming, "You're killing all of us. It's all your fault. We have COVID. People like you who don't wear a mask." I mean, you know, that's kind of like insignificant compared to what some of the people have gone through, you know, accusing, you know, we have come to this place, and I don't know how we got here, where we can't respect somebody else's space or our words or our feelings. You know, everything has to be an argument. It can't ever be you have your opinion, I have my opinion, so what? You know, we'll still be friends.
That's a choice
what
again.
Happened?
It's
what
a choice.
I know,
happened
it's
to
very...
us?
All right, I'm going to tell you my personal sense, because a lot of what I do in life, I'm everywhere, but I'm also an observer.
Yeah.
There's something in me I learned how to maybe set myself back, because I never think I know everything. God forbid, the day I think I get there, I will have grown my wings and flown away.
That's
right?
if I ever
I'm
get
not
everything
there.
done.
Yeah, exactly.
But I really look a lot at what the media has done. If you have good news, or let's say you just have an ordinary story of information, people won't read it. But if you bring something in that makes people afraid, that makes them feel threatened, that makes them feel angry, that makes them see someone else out there as their enemy, people gravitate to it. It's almost like people are magnetized.
You know why? It's
Go ahead.
stimulating.
Why don't you elaborate? Tell us and tell the listeners.
I listened to that from my husband. It's stimulating, and the other thing is he said,
Like a drug stimulating?
well, it's just stimulate. It's easier for some, and I think this goes back to, if I've heard my husband say this once, I've heard him say it a gazillion times, back in the, if I can even say it, Paleolithic days. Right?
Yes.
When it was the fight or flight.
Fight or flight, yes. Okay.
When you know, the cavemen were out there, you know, and they're going to be chased by a lion and things like that. It is stimulating. It's easier to be stimulated by negativity. And how many times I'm just as guilty. I have done it. I have watched the news and quite appalled at what I'm seeing on there from time to time. Is there something I can do about all of that? I'm one person. I can do what I can do. I can make my right choices for me. They're not always going to be right, especially if I don't live a heart-empowered life. But when I do, and I'm pretty darn good at it, I don't slip too much anymore. But if I live from my heart and my heart makes my decisions for me, I will always make the right choice, because I have my foundation of faith that is very strong, and I have God at the helm of the ship. And I'll tell you what, it feels good to pass that buck. Pass that buck over to our Heavenly Father, because I can feel, you know what? I feel so peaceful just even saying the word God and our Heavenly Father. In fact, my husband and I did an interesting demonstration. It was, we were doing heart math coaching, and I lined up two glasses. One was, would you like to make the choice of drinking from poison, or would you like to drink from the glass of poise? And in each one of those glasses, I put poison, negative words, glass of poise, positive words. And try it sometime. You'll see. You will feel your emotional frequency go through the roof, either way, up or down. Up or down.
You're right.
You can do it right
Absolutely.
now. Think of a negative word. More, think of a here. Call you on the spot. Think of a negative word.
The word
worst
hate.
Negative.
The word hate.
Okay, how do you feel when you
Awful.
Look at her body
Look at me.
language.
I'm already angry.
She's already pissed off.
No, you know something? And thank you for what you just said. Do you know when you're talking about these two glasses, I'm listening. I love word pictures like that. Did you know Dr. Emoto out of Japan? He passed away a few years ago.
absolutely. But
I
yes,
use his
yes, yes, yes.
images when I speak sometimes to show people that
Yes.
the words have power, but it's not just the words, it's the thoughts and the emotions that are created through words and ideas that eventually materialize.
That's
or
right.
as you want to say, metastasize.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
If they're good words, you're creating life and beauty and order and harmony in your life and your energy, and then the energy that you exude. But if you focus in on the negative words like a hate or whatever it may be, you immediately are brought down, and then what's created from the being that you are is all negative, and I would actually say metastasized. Some of what Dr. Emoto showed with the water that had all those negative words, if you ever looked at them underneath a slide in a microscope,
Yes.
it looks like disordered cancer cells. And
Yeah.
yet the beautiful words, when they create crystals, are magnificent.
We have 2 of those books because I did want to make sure I had them. Now I want you to do something.
What?
I want you to say the word love.
Love. Look at my body
Did you
language.
see that? She went right into a romantic swag. See that?
I would have-
Give me a
Just-
negative word, Helena Trangata Tinkerbella.
Chaos.
Oh, see that?
It's already irritating,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Now think of a positive word.
Babies.
Oh, baby.
My
See,
babies.
see?
And we all
So
laughed.
if you're
And
going
I
to
masked my babies.
see, look at her body language. Everything's smiling. Everything. Your whole body is smiling. There is science behind this, and this is what. If I was to leave the planet in my sleep tonight, this is what I want to leave with everyone. Live a heart-centered life. It will never do you wrong, because when you come from love, God is love. God is inside of us, and it's something that, gosh, if you make the choice to go that route as opposed to the other, this is why we're seeing what we're seeing out on the streets. I don't know everything there is to know about all this and that and everybody's belief system and this color and that color. We are one person. We are all together on this planet. And that's
Oh, we
where
were all
we
created.
need to see more of this love, but there are people that have this and this and that, and we just need to help kind of nurture them along with these little exercises. They can prove it to themselves, just like you girls did here.
Well, if you believe in a Heavenly Father, which I do, and you believe that we were created by that Heavenly Father, then we're all brothers and sisters.
Right.
That's right.
And we seem to have forgotten that. And He doesn't want anything but love. He wants our highest good. Our
That's
highest
right.
good is love. And we were put here to love our brothers and sisters.
That's right.
And I really don't know how we've gotten where we are as an entire entity of countries. I mean, obviously this coronavirus has done some things to us, but we were well on this path
Yes.
before this coronavirus.
This was a big trigger, big
we
trigger.
would not. This would not have happened had we not done this, and so. And so we've got to get back to basics.
Yeah, we do, and I think this is actually helping us, and we can choose to look at this as a victim or a survivor. We can look at this and either respond or react. If we react, we're going to be like one of those people out on the streets that are creating such chaos for whatever it is. I mean, I have my thoughts about it. I just kind of, or we can respond. And when we respond, that is when we have managed our emotions on the spot every single time by living from the heart. And again, going back to source, that strong foundation of faith. At least that's what we feel here on our Women Unscripted.
Absolutely.
I know Cher and Chrysula feel the same way, and I mean, this is what's on my heart, is to use this as a platform to make a difference. If only one person out there was to be able to grasp one thing that any one of us have said today, then we have succeeded in this show. And now if you'll take that and pay it forward, Tune into our show every Monday at 2 p.m. because we're running out of time. We have less than 3 minutes. Do you believe this?
This went by so quickly.
Yeah.
I know.
But, I'm so glad where you're going right now because here we are in the middle of coronavirus. You're saying we didn't get here by accident. You said
That's
it's
right.
triggered.
That's right.
This is a worldwide
Yes.
psychological, emotional, and spiritual time.
Mm-hmm.
People are thinking it's all about the COVID or it's all about racial wars. You name it, whatever you want. But it is about the heart and the
an
psyche of
awakening.
people. And when
We
you
are
said
in an awakening.
it is. And when you said our Father, it's our Father. It's
Yeah,
everyone's. And
yes.
Barbara, you said
Absolutely.
something I
Yes.
loved. And I want you to close because it's your show. But here's the thing that you just mentioned is that we can't be everywhere. We can't be everything to everybody. But you know
That's
what?
true.
I think about this daily because I've told my husband, turn off the news. It's not that I want to be
We do this.
turn it off because it's so agitating. But here's what I get. I will go out to the grocery store. I'll go out for a walk. I will be out and I will find ways to interact with perfect strangers through a smile, a hello, a quick question. This is the difference each and every one of us could make wherever we are. We don't need the TV. We don't need people agitating us. We can be that vibration, that heart, that conveyance from person to person, brother to sister. I don't care what you look at. Like, I don't care what country you're from. I don't care what your color is. I don't care how old or how young, rich or poor. That love is something that each and every one of us can emanate from the very heart of who we are. And we could change the world. And I believe this
It's
COVID
true.
thing is going to a better place.
Oh, I do too.
I really do.
I do too. I mean, I do.
Good end to the story. That's
We
how I
have
feel.
just a minute remaining, and I want to thank you for joining us, my love. You've had a lot of good things to
Thank
say.
you for having
and
us
Maura,
here. We love getting
Excuse
together
me.
again. It's been so long.
And we're doing our sort of 6-foot distancing here. But guess what we did when we saw one another? We did do a hug, and we didn't spray down afterwards because we're in a very controlled environment, very safe, very sanitized. But I just want to thank you for joining us on Primetime and for Women Unscripted. Next week, we'll probably have an archived show because it is Labor Day weekend. And then we'll be back after that. More education on some different things. I know you're going to join me for the Healy, our microcurrency.
Oh, I love it.
And yeah, we're going to be talking about some different alternatives for you. And I'll also be sharing Mary Louise Zeller and those wonderful stellar products by Kayani. And if you want to check it out, go to immuneboosters2020.com to help you build your immune system. And thanks so much for joining us. God bless.
Thank you.
And have a wonderful evening. See you soon. Mwah.